Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the C Word Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Olivia.
And I'm your host, right, Ribu.
How's it going? We're coming off of the first pilot episode that we recorded last week, and we just watched it back. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I couldn't watch myself, but I'm hearing great things. I'm hearing great reviews about myself.
Yeah, I really liked it. I hope y'all do too whenever we drop all of the... It's so weird because we're recording these, but we haven't, like, nobody knows that we're recording them. So when you do get to watch these will be, hopefully you're kind of like binge watching a couple of episodes and catching up with us. But
we didn't expect the last one to last as long. We thought it would be an hour.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, wait. So when did we start? 10, or it'll say on there.
1 minute ago.
Okay. So we're going to try and get it closer to an hour. Mm-hmm. And then you have something at what, 11:30?
Yeah. I have MD Anderson's calling for a on the phone registration.
Girl, that's going to be...
Ask me if I have any issues.
That's going to be a mutual peak that we have. But so let's just see updates over the week. This bipolar weather. Mm-hmm. Right now it is... I feel the need to give you a weather report because...
Give it to us. You watch Good Morning America every morning?
I've been on my Senora vibes in the morning. If you follow me on...
What's the weatherman's name?
So there's a couple of them. Mm-hmm. I switch and I can't remember any of them, but there's this really tall, like he's probably like 6'5" tall white guy meteorologist that I really like. Anyways, so on my Instagram, I often say like I'm on in my Senora era, watching the morning news with Julian, drinking my coffee with like my nightgown on.
For real. And a blanket, laying down. You and Julian just laying down.
Yeah. And so I've been really abreast of the weather situation. And today's weather sucks, man.
You didn't catch the weather report today?
I didn't. I was rushing to get ready for the pod.
Well, give us the Olivia weather report.
So we're looking at 33 degrees outside, which for San Antonio, Texas, that's cold.
Low level disturbance coming from the western.
Exactly. And we have a National Weather Service winter storm warning in Bexar County.
Usually it's advisory.
We bumped it up to a warning. So the roads have been really icy. You know, we risked our lives coming to film this podcast, as did our producer, John. You know, so we appreciate you coming. We're looking at today, it's going to be 50% rain, and we're not getting we're getting high 30s maybe.
Yeah, we got 72 degrees on Sunday. Today is Wednesday. Crazy.
Today is Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like over the weekend, it was hot. We had the AC on. Yeah. It's just Texas weather is so freaking bipolar, and it's hard to keep up with. But don't worry, guys.
We'll make it.
We'll make it, but I got you if you ever need.
Yeah. You know, we got to get you a green screen.
The report. I love it. I love watching the local news. It's so nostalgic for me because the same anchors and the same like cast is the same since I was like going to middle school.
You'll watch the morning news, but you don't like the afternoon news.
The afternoon news brings back PTSD. You know why? Yeah. Because when you come back from school. Yeah. And my mom would have the news on.
Did y'all have ABC or what was y'all's?
We had KSAT 12. I think that's ABC.
So y'all have I just remember the lineup would be for us in Dallas is WFAA. So on ABC, then you have World News Tonight. So dun 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 dun.
I didn't mind the world news so much. That meant like that we were getting somewhere throughout the night, but like the local afternoon news when everybody's like reporting from the day and somebody's always been shot, a burglary, a fire, apartment fire, and it's back to back, and it's like I tried watching it now and it's so depressing.
And they try to add in a good story at the end.
I'm like, that's not gonna cut
local it. Dog saved after drowning.
After near drowning and abuse all of his life. So anyways, but I've been enjoying the morning news, and then I do my Good Morning America.
GMA.
And then even Julian knows, like, you know, the GMA. So the weather is horrible, but hopefully we'll get through this week. Yeah. Over the weekend, we chilled. We didn't do much, which was really nice. I think it was our second weekend of not doing anything from appointments and stuff.
Exactly.
And it's been really nice. You watched We're going to give a quick sports update as well since last
we have weatherman and sports report.
since we watched the football game.
I watched.
I didn't watch, but Rib always tells me when to watch the good parts of the game, and I appreciate that.
And I have to tell you in advance because it takes a few seconds for you to look up. I'll be like, watch now.
Exactly. Yeah. To put my phone down and engage
to process
stuff.
it.
But it was a good game from what I saw.
It was the first game wasn't. It was a blowout with Philly and San Francisco. Brock Purdy got hurt and has an ulnar collateral ligament tear.
Really?
UCL tear. So he'll be out.
So
what's San Francisco going to do? They have so many quarterbacks.
Yes.
Going into next year. And is Tom Brady going to come now? Anyways, a lot of stories for the 49ers going into next year. Mm-hmm. We got the Eagles going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm a Dallas fan, so that's not the greatest to hear. But maybe it'll wake up the Cowboys. We fired our offensive coordinator, which, nice white man, but it's about time he leaves.
Right.
And then we have the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Great. That was the game you liked. That was the good game.
You know why I liked it?
Why? Oh, it's Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Brother. And
he's a good looking guy.
So fine.
And he's good at football too.
And he's very good. Yes. And I like the dynamic between him and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But, over on the talks, somebody has taken Travis Kelce's thunder, and that is Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
In terms of the girls participating.
Well, I had to tell you that.
You had to tell me that, but listen, I'm still a Travis Kelce diehard.
Yeah, and everyone is.
Joe Burrow he's cute, no doubt. I have figured out the difference between Travis Kelce and Joe Burrow, which are obviously two white athletes. Joe Burrow is drippy and Travis Kelce is swaggy. There's a big difference.
I don't know what the difference is.
I think there's a big difference. The drippy is like he purchases the clothes. He wears the clothes well.
Joe Burrow. And he has like the sunglasses and everything, and he looks real drippy. But I think swaggy is a mindset over anything. Well, you haven't seen Joe Burrow talk.
Yes, I have.
When?
Whenever you make me watch the
I never make you watch. I never make you watch Joe Burrow talk.
I'm not saying in terms of talk. I'm just saying I think that's the difference, and I'm
sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it. I'm gonna clip this and watch. Every girl is gonna agree with me.
Okay, we'll see. I don't think Joe Burrow would.
Aside from Joe Burrow, but I think it's crazy how much he's blown up on.
Plus, he's good
media,
too,
and he's very good.
And he's just so good that he exudes confidence.
Yeah.
So does Travis Kelce.
For sure.
But we got Chiefs and Eagles going to the Super Bowl. Going to be a good game. I don't know who I want to win. I just want a good game.
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting game. Is Travis Kelce's brother on the Eagles? Okay, so
they have a podcast together.
They do. Yeah, I see that all the time on
that's going to be a big episode when they come out.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of TikTok, don't forget to follow us on the C Word Chronicles podcast on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. This is where you can watch us on YouTube. And then obviously on like Spotify.
Tell me about this situation.
What situation?
This excessive drink situation.
Oh, this is my
unopened water bottle.
No, it's opened. Okay, so this is my drink situation. I think it's very crucial. I think it's very important. I think if you know, you know. I have to have 3 drinks if I'm going an hour plus in conversation. So
gotcha.
We got water for hydration.
pH
balanced, water for hydration. We have the coffee for caffeine and overall comfort because I love Starbucks.
What coffee you get?
We do a grande brown sugar shaken espresso, half sweetened. So that's for like the caffeine boost and comfort because anybody who follows me on Instagram knows Starbucks is my stuff. And then we have something like fun, fizzy, effervescent, which is Poppy. And this is a prebiotic soda. I really, really like their drink. This isn't sponsored, but hey, Poppy, if you want it, if you want to sponsor, that's fine. And this is their raspberry rose.
That's your favorite
prebiotic soda. It's my
flavor?
favorite. It's so good, but all of their flavors are really, really good. And so it's 20 calories, not a lot of sugar, and then it's just really good for your gut health. And it's fizzy, so it's.
You've been drinking a lot of these.
I love them. Yeah. So a long time ago, I reached out to them, and they sent me I still have boxes, so they sent me like probably 5 packs.
Yeah.
Of their.
Is that like a seltzer?
No, it's so different.
Wait, is a seltzer always alcoholic?
No, a seltzer I think has like no flavor. Like the LaCroix, the Spindrifts, they have like, you can't, I think it's like a waste of
carbonated water.
It's carbonated water with like a sniff of flavor. This has like a ton of flavor. It's like you're drinking like a soda or juice, but it's good for you. And
or as you
say,
sody pop.
Sody pop. Okay, so let's get into our first segment, peaks and pits. Let's start with our mutual peak, which is
MD Anderson. I got into MD Anderson finally. Long process. Crazy part is, so I called last week. Well, I've been calling every week, probably every day. The holdup was my insurance. Just, I don't know. My insurance is out of network, everything. With every hospital doesn't want to take it, even though I have out-of-network benefits, so they have to make like a single contract. And so to make this single contract, it took 2 weeks. But shout out to Springtide. It's not my insurance. It's a third contract. And shout out to Michaela Johnson at Springtide, who's been helping. So we finally got the contract on last Friday. Today's Tuesday. And so I called the schedule, and MD Anderson's like, we didn't get the contract. But then my insurance is like, we sent over the contract. So I was like, you know what? Let me just book a private pay thing until y'all get it. Crazy part is usually private pay, if I go for a session, it's like, $500, which is a lot still. But they were like, to book this private pay session, they're like, okay, Ribu, well, this is MD Anderson. They're like, Ribu, we'll book this private pay session. Just be prepared to pay $15,000 when you come in. I was like, wait, what? I was like, did you say that right? 15,000? She's like, yeah, that's how much the self-pay is. I was like, 15,000 for an appointment? She's like, no, we have to, book all your tests and everything.
Right.
And I was like, okay. Let's just book it. And hope this week the insurance, y'all get the letter from my insurance.
And did
which I called yesterday, and they were like, oh yes, we did get it, but you're under self-pay. I was like, but we talked about this. I was like, can we just apply it?
Come on now.
Still got to pay the deductible, which is $5,000, but better than $15,000.
Sure, that's okay. So that's our peak. Our mutual peak is we got into MD Anderson. So we're headed to Houston, Texas, on this Thursday for a couple of days. We're taking Julian. We booked like a nice hotel. We're like doing it. We're gonna just make like a little trip out of it. And Houston has such a place in both of our hearts, because that's where we not fell in love, but that's like where we did rotations.
Yeah, I had multiple rotations there
together. So in PT school, in the doctoral program that we were in, you had to go and do what they call clinical rotations. So you take what you learn in school and you apply it under the supervision of a clinical instructor. So we both went to Houston separately, like with some friends for a first round clinical, but for, I think it's like a 16-week clinical, we went back to Houston, just you and me, and we got an apartment together, and it was like,
you walked to your rotation? That's how close it was? I had to drive an hour.
Okay, calm down. I walked to Texas Children's Hospital main campus, like I think it was I remember I could see the apartment from like the elevator window. And it was a cute little apartment in Rice Village.
Right behind it was LA Fitness.
Yeah. And I remember we just loved it. So I have not been back since then. I don't think we would have gone for anything
That's
crazy.
16 weeks at the time. That rotations felt like so long, but when you look back at it, it's like, man, that was barely any time.
Yeah, but we learned a lot there.
Yeah. That's when you knew you want to do pediatrics too.
For sure, yeah. I had a great clinical instructor who was really, really skilled in pediatrics. And then you're at Texas Children's, which was a huge, like really, really great pediatric hospital.
And MD Anderson's right next to that, right?
Yeah, and I always remember seeing MD Anderson because the campus is like huge, and it's a very like well established and highly rated
hospital, for cancer
institution. Yeah, so I always remember seeing it. So it's going to be a little weird going back to literally like our stomping grounds. And now we're going back for cancer treatments, but we're staying positive and excited. Hopefully we'll be able to go explore.
Crazy part is like, even with MD Anderson, it's just like a full day of appointments. Well, not on Thursday so much because I start at 2, but then on Friday it's like usually they'll call me to book the appointments. Right. That's what I'm used to. But then I looked this morning and it's like 6. So Thursday's appointments and then Friday you start at 6 a.m. like tests.
Yeah, and they don't
this. Oh my God.
Which you kind of appreciate because it's like, hey, they're getting it done. Like you're there, so you're kind of at their whim of like when you're available. So I didn't mind that as much, but it is a new thing. It's kind of interesting because we're always getting asked, what your preference is on appointments and stuff. So now they're not asking anything. Sure. They're saying be here at 6 a.m. for blood work.
Yeah. Or 6 a.m. for a CT.
Oh, CT.
And then the type of CT, I'm like, wait, am I sure I'm supposed to get that? Yeah. So many questions.
Okay. So that's our mutual peak. Do you want to do your individual peak?
Yeah. My individual peak is, kind of mentioned it a little earlier, is my insurance going through. So I don't have to pay $15,000 when I go to MD Anderson.
Thank God.
Yeah. And it's not only going through for MD Anderson, it's going through for my current hospital for the year, UT Southwestern. So that means both are covered regardless of, both are covered up to my deductible and out of pocket, but regardless of, what I have to do, they'll cover.
That was a big stressor or, a point of contention, I think, in this journey is insurance, which is so sad that has to be such a stress, like insurance, which I'm sure people who are listening to this who have gone through medical issues where it requires insurance, how much of a headache.
Yeah, like I've never been through the health system, like going to your primary care for sure, or like a dentist, right. But like
where you need like your surgery was what, $20,000?
Yeah, like getting for my surgery, getting just an email saying you got to pay $30,000, 50%'s due right when you walk in. It's like, what the heck? Like I didn't want to pay that.
Right. So it's been interesting with the insurance aspect of how much that's such a headache. And we feel for the ones, we're so fortunate to have the means to even have insurance. Like I've had patients that don't, like their children don't have, nobody has insurance. Yeah. And then you just kind of like say a prayer that nothing happens. And so we're so blessed in that regard, trying to stay positive, like, at least we have insurance, at least we have the means
peak, like getting this covered with this single case agreement is what they call it when they have a contract between a hospital and insurance company. Right. So single case agreement or letter of agreement, LOA, like having that go through and hearing that last Friday was like, okay, good. Like, I'm covered.
Right. What's your pit?
Pit is, there's probably a bad pit, but just in the moment. So last Thursday, I think we did our podcast last Wednesday. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last Thursday was another appointment with my endocrinologist. And I think we mentioned a little bit on the last podcast, like she's a great doctor, very smart, and I'm sure knows the game.
Because you're like, we mentioned her a little bit. We mentioned her a lot. Yeah. We had a lot to say about that.
Yeah. So like you kind of got like a little background on her on the last podcast, but pretty much she's very nice, but just her communication skills I don't think are A1, especially for a cancer patient.
Communication, delivery again.
Yeah. And so I asked Liv to join me on this one because every time I hop onto a call with her or a video call with her, I just feel like I've been hit by a train. And literally that's what happened the first couple seconds. We log onto our telehealth and mind you, at this time I already know it's in my lungs and I already know
it's PDTC.
Yeah, it's like PDTC, we kind of already poorly differentiated thyroid carcinoma. So she logs on and she's like, "Hey guys, how are y'all?" And I'm like, "We're doing good." She's like, "This is not good. This is not good."
She was like, "Not good, huh?" And I was like,
and me and Olivia look at each other and we're like, "What do you mean not good?" And she's like, "You have poorly differentiated thyroid carcinoma with it in your lungs." And we were like, "Yes." She's like, "It's not good." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "That we knew that. Like, what's the not good part?
Yeah,
like, did you notice something else?"
Exactly. So that's where we were like, "Great. What else did you see, or what are you not telling us?"
Yeah, it's like what? Who opens up a conversation with that? And yeah, like saying it's not good, and then going on from there, just the rest of the conversation, things like she said one thing a few weeks ago, and then literally 2 weeks ago, and then this appointment's like, we're gonna change the whole approach. Yeah, and I'm like, wait, why are we changing?
And that's what we couldn't figure out based on really not much. Yeah. We got off that appointment and we were like, what did she just do?
One of the bigger ones was my radioiodine. Radioiodine is a treatment where you take like an iodine pill that's radioactive. You're supposed to take it. I'm supposed to take it end of February, beginning of March. And there's like multiple methods. There's 2 methods of doing it. It's either like you continue on this Synthroid medication that I'm taking and then take.
What does that do?
That suppresses my thyroid stimulating hormone. Probably need to know more about it. And then, 2 days before I take this radioiodine, I get shots, which elevates my TSH.
Right.
So that the radioiodine can be more effective. So that's one approach called thyrogen.
Thyrogen shots.
Other approach is called a withdrawal method, where I just don't take my medication for 6 months. 6 weeks, and I get very I get hypothyroid symptoms, which are not nice to have.
Right.
This whole time we were expecting thyrogen shots. That's what she's been telling me.
Yeah.
But the appointment last Thursday, she's like, let's switch it up to withdrawal. And I'm like, okay, okay, if you think so. And she's like, at the end of the appointment, she's like, well, what do you think about doing withdrawal? And I'm like, I don't know.
We were like, what do you mean? What do we think? We don't know.
Literally what I said was like, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know the research. I'm going off what you think.
Right.
And she's like, let's do withdrawal. I haven't started the withdrawal part
Well, she's
yet.
like, let's do withdrawal. You need stop taking your Synthroid today.
Yeah.
And we're like, so if you don't take your Synthroid, you go into hypothyroidism.
Yeah, and then my TSH elevates,
which is a ideal environment for cancer cells to metastasize, right?
Yeah, my understanding is when I met the oncologist last week as well, he was saying like the best medication right now is my Synthroid or levothyroxine to keep my TSH low,
right?
To slow down the replication of the cancer. So my question to this doctor I have was, well, if for 6 weeks I'm not taking it and my TSH goes up, won't that replicate my cancer faster? And she's like, not much can happen in 6 weeks. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean nothing can happen.
It just didn't sound, again, very confident.
Yeah.
It sounded like she thought of this kind of on the fly, and we were left being like, but why did you think of this on the fly? And so I remember her reasoning for doing the withdrawal method. But then when we were talking about it, we could not come up with her reasoning.
Yeah.
So it left us really kind of stumped.
Yeah.
And then again, like exhausted and drained and confused and bummed. And then she said something in that appointment. What did she say? So in the initial appointments, before we thought we got the official diagnosis of PDTC, poorly differentiated carcinoma, she was saying with papillary, you'll live a long life, and this is not what patients die from. She's like, you live very an old, you'll not die from this. And
yeah, you should say it how she said it to me.
She goes, I don't know how it came up in conversation, and she was like, the prognosis is not as good, and this is what's gonna get you.
Yeah. She said like, yeah, she's like, this is what's gonna get you, and I was like, get me? Like I know what she means, and I'm not. I
didn't. I was like, are you saying he's? Because I still have a big fear of somebody saying like he has 2 weeks to live, pull that rug under us. So when she said that, I was like, wait. I panicked hardcore.
Yeah, like it was a interesting moment because she said. She's like, you're right. There's only like a 50 to 80% prognosis. She's like, and Ribu, this is what's going to get you. And it's not like I don't have the reality to realize down the road. Yeah, there's a high chance that this is what kills me, obviously. But so she says that. She's like, in 5 years, there's a 50 to 80% prognosis. I'm like, okay. So then I ask her, I'm like, I have people in my support group that have been alive for 15 years. Not saying it's been an easy journey for them. Some 5, some 10. And I'm like, what do you think about that? She's like, that's exactly what I mean. You'll have a long life. And that's where I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what are you saying to me? You just told me 58, this was going to get me. And so I'm like, it's just that I'm not saying what she's saying is wrong, but just like the delivery. I'm like, I'm so confused.
She was just confusing. And for two smart people, like we have doctorates, like we're smart, like for two smart people, to both be confused, we can't start.
And even my brother, who's a physician too, it's like,
yeah. So we assumed, I'm like, oh, she must mean in the 5 years, 50 to 80% reoccurrence, not death. But the way she was saying it was like, you got 5 years.
Yeah.
So it was awful, which brings me to my pit. I had I kind of want to say it because I feel in a funny way, because I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's like this rite of passage. And in terms of mentally or for mental health, I think people will resonate with this. Hopefully, again, I don't want to take anything lightly from what I'm saying, but my pit of the week is I had my first panic attack.
Sure did.
So after that appointment, that was Thursday, that was in the morning, and Rib went to work. And before he went to work, we obviously talked about how the appointment went and how essentially it was just like this shit show of more confusion. I was more scared because she was saying things like, this is what's going to get you. And she didn't give a timeline for that either. So I'm sure anybody, the spouse of somebody or the partner, the loved one of somebody who's going through this with a very rare or like not super common diagnosis where there's a lot of uncertainty and unknown, you are holding on, or like you take everything they say, tenfold. It has so much weight. So when she says things like that, like, this is what's gonna get you, my mind goes, I have like 3 months left with him, or something very irrational on my behalf. But so I and we were talking, and we were like, okay, this is what I'll probably die from. And I'm like, but later, right? Like much later, right? So you have to reassure me that this is probably going to be later. And so I've started kind of compartmentalizing, okay, it's not 3 months, it's not 6 months, it's not a year, it's not 5, hopefully when we're a lot older, things will happen. I don't know. I have to dive into that on my own. Yeah. But, I was so mad at the endocrinologist, or I was so, like I said in the last podcast, like you get tired of being sad.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is like every appointment we have, she takes a little of that hope we've been building, the strength we've been building. Yeah. Away from us. Like, right. I think we know the reality of it, that this is not good. I think we know the reality that it's not like ideal, obviously. But seeing the people in the support group who have, so I so far know it's in my lungs, not in the bones around my lungs from the scan we got like 3 weeks ago. I'm going to get another scan this week. But like, I think we know what the situation is. There's a reality to it. There's a medical reality. There's a spiritual reality, to it. Right. And then when we have the appointments, though, it's like that's all taken away. Yeah, and I think that's not like we're being naive either. And it's not like we need somebody to hold our hand either. I think it's like a bare minimum of you don't open on a Zoom and say, "Hi guys, well, this is real bad," right? Yeah. Like you just don't do that. I'm pretty sure anybody who's not even in the medical field would have a little bit more social cue to not start off a conversation like that. And backpedal from that from the start. And I know she has a lot of patience, so I know it's not like I'm trying to be as reasonable as I can with this thing. I've seen her probably since November, so the past 2-3 months. Seen her multiple times, and my whole conversation with her throughout has been, it's about my family, right? So for example, like during our last conversation with her, we were talking about, doing the radioactive iodine, or RAI, and afterwards doing these targeted therapies, right? And this is just going off, I'm sure what builds up to a panic attack is during the conversation, she's like, Ribu, these targeted therapies are going to cause so many side effects, probably ulcers in the mouth, could cause internal bleeding, this, that. And I'm like, I know. And it's not so much I can't battle those things, but what I mentioned to her, I was like, a little part of me is like, I wish you kind of understood me by now, because we've talked about this numerous times. It's not so much what I go through. I just want to make sure, how do I prepare my family for this? Sure. And so having those conversations with her, but her not understanding and giving us back, it makes us more uncertain, I feel like, right? So she did that, and then she went on to this kind of tangent of like, the targeted therapy is technically chemo, but it's
chemo is such a broad word. So it's not chemo like in your traditional like breast cancers where you lose your hair, you're sick all the time. So she was like, so you're not gonna, this was like what I thought, what she thought she was like, resolving everything with this statement, and it made it so much worse because like you don't know us then, because she was like, trust me, you're not gonna look like you have cancer at all. Your hair is not gonna fall out, you're gonna look just fine. And I was like, we don't give a
I can
fuck
care less how I
about
look.
how he looks. Like what? So I think she was just like, you know, anyways, I don't think she really like gets you.
But the crazy
I think
part was
stumped by you also.
Like I literally on my first appointment, she was like, before I had the surgery, before I knew the only option was surgery. We were going through options, and I was like, I don't want surgery to be my first option if it doesn't have to be. Can we do these other methods? And she's like, why? Are you afraid of the cosmetic look from the surgery and the scar? I was like, I can care less of the cosmetic look.
You're like, no, I just don't want someone slicing into my neck.
I just don't want to go
if I don't have to.
Through general anesthesia, put my laryngeal nerve at risk, put my trachea at risk if I don't have to, if there's other approaches. And she's like, you don't care about the look? I was like, I don't. I was like, what? I was like, what's so hard to fathom? I do not care about the look. So I was looking at her note. This is early November. I was looking at the note a couple weeks later, and she's like, he supposedly, like she literally writes, like he supposedly doesn't care about the cosmetic look, but has questions about surgery. And I'm like, why? Like, why is that so hard to understand? Like, I don't care if I have a scar. You can do a scar all up my neck, down my neck. Internally, I'm still gonna feel good. Like, it ain't about what's on my face. Right. And so, it was like one of those situations when
you never told me that you read her note, which you can on the My Chart thing.
Yeah, you can. She has to write all her notes up, but you can see it. And I remember reading that, and I was like,
what the fuck?
I was like, why is that so hard to fathom that I don't care?
Maybe because we're young and you're, like inherently good looking, and maybe she's just like, oh, he's so concerned with that. I don't know.
She asked me like 4 times, like, I do not care about the look.
Yeah, it was more so like, well, no, I don't want to have you slice open my neck. if we can try other things. Obviously, this was before your cancer diagnosis and stuff. Anyways, it was a shitty appointment, and I told myself, I was like, I'm going to get up from this appointment. I'm going to make us breakfast. I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to say like F off to this doctor, because what we need her for at this point is to get to the next step, which is the RAI, the radioactive iodine. And I know probably some of y'all are like, fools, switch doctors. Like, why would you? And that's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's been a work in progress for.
We've been trying and all of that stuff. So
we finally got it.
Right. And we're kind of like at the mercy of her, which sucks too. So anyways, I'm making breakfast, and I'm like cutting my onion or whatever. And I'm like, like I was like so mad. And then I was like, I had plans, I don't know, maybe to meet with John or to work and like shoot stuff. And then I was like, this is not going to, I think the meeting was like at 9:30 or something. I'm like, this is not going to ruin my day. Like, no. So I'm like trying to stay on top of it. We're having a conversation and things like that. So you go to work, and what I've found, and hopefully some people can resonate with this as well, is like when Rib is gone and I'm alone with Julian, especially at nighttime. So Rib had like a dinner with his work, with his employees last week, and I had to put Julian to bed and bathe him and feed him and like do the nighttime routine by myself, which is something that we kind of always do together. That hits me so hard, and it is so hard not to think that this is my future, right? And so it's hard not to spiral. So this was one of the first times I was alone with Julian during the daytime. I can't remember what my mom was doing. I think she was just having like a day off from watching Julian, which is totally fine. So my mom was like, how was the appointment? And I was like, meh, trying to stay positive. She automatically was like, well, do you want to go to lunch or go for a walk? And I was like, oh, a walk would be nice. It would be really great. And she's like, okay, I'll, see you in 10 or whatever. My mom lives like a mile down the road. And so I'm like, okay, sounds great. So I take Julian up the stairs, and it's just very quiet in the house, and I'm walking him up the stairs, and it just hit me. Like, the feeling of being alone hit with my son hit me so bad. And so I just started bawling, which I've done
Julian starts crying.
I've done before, right? But I have never experienced a panic attack where I was hyperventilating. My whole arms, like my whole body went numb, like heavy, like dead limbs. Like I had to put Julian down. I started throwing up and like dry heaving. And then I'm by myself, so I couldn't, and Julian's crawling all over the place. So I had to like have him next to me on the floor in my bathroom, like throwing up. And he started crying because I think he was scared. Like, what are you, like, what's going on? So I'm like trying to be like, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Like, I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. And my body was like, this was the first time that I felt like I had no control over my body. And I had never had like a true panic attack before. I've had something close to that, but this was like so systemically, like my body was like, you can't hide it anymore, bitch. Like, this is it, you know? So I called my mom hysterically crying, bless her heart. She's probably like, oh my, you know, so she rushes over, you know, puts Julian in somewhere safe, and then just kind of helps me like get back to it. We are, I wouldn't say we're like drinkers, but like my mom is always like,
solve with a little alcohol.
Have some tequila. Like, so I'm like, okay. And I was like, I don't think I can stomach tequila. She's like, you just need to calm down. So we start sipping champagne, and that helped. And I just like talked through everything. And my mom knew kind of exactly where I was coming from, because she had a panic attack. She had multiple panic attacks when my dad passed away. So I was 11 when my dad just had a heart attack and passed away like that. And my mom was left with my 3 kids. So, you know, my mom said she thought she was having a heart attack
at the time.
And I don't know if she went to I don't know how, I think she did go to like the emergency room, and they were like, everything's fine. I think you're just having a panic attack. And so she kind of knew exactly what to say and helped me kind of just come down from it. Mine was in no way where I felt like I was having a heart attack, you know, thank God.
I think that's what, not to bring it back to the doctor, but that's what I'm thinking about.
It stemmed from is this stupid doctor.
But it's like, not to minimize your situation, but I think that's what she doesn't get, is like the way you say things can affect my wife, which makes her life harder, which makes, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't make the cancer easier.
No, because you had called randomly, like when I think I was having
food.
A panic attack. You're like, hey, what do you want for lunch? And I was like, I was like, are you crying? I was trying so hard not to.
So you want Chick-fil-A?
Just sound panicked.
Said no.
And he was like, are you okay? I was like, I'm having a panic attack. Yeah. And you know, you talked me down too. But yeah, I think it just, you know, you try so hard to not let things like build up like that. And I think it just was really compounding. And my body was like, this is enough. Like, here's your panic attack. And I will say, like, after all of that, there was a sense of clarity for me. You know, just going there with my mom, who literally kind of knows the experience of losing a loved one. She was like, let's talk about it. What happened? What does happen? This and that, and you'll be okay. And we'll, you know, I'll be here with, you know, all of that. So I think it just forced me to kind of deal with certain things. But yeah, so my first one in the books.
I'm sure there's more.
I'm sure there will be more. It's not fun.
At least you know kind of
but
how you feel doing it.
Yeah, it was a lot. Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if our upcoming appointments, we haven't met these doctors, so not saying they'll be better, but if they can't be as bad.
I hope. I think I'm a little nervous about Thursday, just because I'm like, what if she says something like that's gonna, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure there's gonna be more tests.
I'm just hoping that because it's at MD Anderson, like the #1 cancer center in the world, they will have a better delivery. They have to.
I was reading some stuff about her too. She seems
great.
Yeah,
really great. Anywho, okay, so that was my pit. You did your what? What in your pit?
I did my pit was the doctor's appointment.
Okay, what's your peak?
Peak was MD Anderson, my insurance. So we talked about that a little bit. You can talk about your peak.
Oh, okay. So my peak was in the last episode we talked about, I had a really good brand campaign with this particular brand that opened up an opportunity to meet her. So the meeting went...
Well, let me, little preface, sorry to interrupt you, was you posted a video and the video went insane, went viral.
Yeah. I keep thinking, because we talked about it in the last podcast, everybody will know, but I should pretend like they are not listening chronologically. So I did a brand kind of campaign with this really great brand. And the video that I posted went viral on both platforms, so Instagram and TikTok, over 1 million views. And then they reached out and wanted to do Spark ads and all of that stuff. So that was really great. But the CEO reached out on her personal Instagram and had great things to say about my creativity, my content, my authenticity, blah, blah, blah. She was like, I want to learn from you. Like, I just love your content. If you're ever in the area, she's in Austin, we're in San Antonio, so it's like an hour and a half away. She was like, you know, if you're ever in the area, like, I would love to meet you. And I'm showing you this, in exchange of messages on Instagram, and you were like, you tell her, my husband is so entrepreneurial in spirit. He was like, you tell her you're going to be, I'm going to be up in Austin on Friday.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what you do. Like, you
make it happen.
You make it happen. So, which is so true, because I would have like lollygagged and we would have been like texting forever and whatever. So I was like, well, matter of fact, I'm going to be in Austin on Friday. She was like, oh my gosh, amazing. Let's meet up, blah, blah, blah. So we meet up. We have a 2-hour conversation with the CEO of this huge company. They were on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. We clicked like that.
Which you didn't know it'll be like, you didn't know the conversation would go like that. The way it went.
I didn't. It went in a really good direction, and I felt really like at ease with talking to her. And she had great insight. I'm the type of person too, like, if I get a good vibe from you, then I really can give you a lot more, because I like your vibe, which sounds so like I like your vibe, but it's true. Like, we just kind of, her energy was great, and I think we really like aligned with a lot of things. So that,
and she said a lot of good things about you too.
Yeah. She has resources up the wazoo from her company. And so I don't want to get into too much. Like, I don't want to reveal too much, but we ended up at the end coming up with this. She proposed something that I was like, whoa. Yeah. And I told John about it yesterday. That I was like, okay, let's go for it. Like, let's try it. And so that's kind of establishing this relationship that I really didn't go in thinking anything.
If you think about the progression of Baby PT, this is kind of we didn't think about it this way, but we kind of talked about it along the way, where when you started in October 2020 and the video started doing good, little by little, opportunities that you didn't expect, that are probably not in like the direct business path of the Baby PT, have been opening. Right? Like, even the Poppy thing, like, we never knew about Poppy at the time. Yeah. But like little things like that, like a company wants to send over stuff, like, that was like the first thing. And then like they want to pay for stuff, and that was the next thing. And it's like,
and it's been cool. Yeah. It's been cool to meet people on the brand side of things. And that's like such a different world. So it was really interesting to talk to her about the business side of her business, her taking a step back because she's a little older than us, her taking a step back because she wanted more family time. So she allocated a new CEO, but she's still a founder, and kind of her steps along the way. It was really interesting, and it was really cool. And I'm really excited to work with her on this other project that maybe we'll talk about when it's done or something. I don't know. Yeah. So it went really well. And I think, I have to tell myself that these are such great opportunities, and I know I won't blow it, but I have the tendency to be like so imposter syndrome or like, you know, and then I also get very shy when not in the actual meeting, but you're like, you should follow up text with her of you send this proposal to her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to bother her.
Yeah. You know, the crazy part of these situations I always think are like, what's the worst possible thing that can happen? Like if you don't go to, you're just, like you said, you're just sabotaging yourself. But I think especially for you, when you put yourself in these situations, 9 times out of 10, they go so much better than you thought they would go.
Yeah.
But you were never done it. And I think that's just for everybody. It's like, what's the absolute worst thing that can happen?
Yeah, you're really good at kind of...
Especially with cancer, you're like, what's the worst? Like, you know what I mean? You already got the cancer. You're like, what's...
And that's a good perspective, too. Like,
even with the project you're thinking with this CEO is like there's no reason not to be nervous because you've already done it for yourself, like, millions of times. Like you've already posted videos millions of times.
Right.
And so it's just like
what her ask is, I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough for what she's wanting. And, you know, no. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, no, I am. Like, I am. And, like, I think, and who cares? Like, I'm going to do my best. And, you know, John's going to come with me and we're going to crush it. And that's it. Like, that's the, you know, for this project of what she's wanting. Like,
I think even like, if you look at small life situations, like even with John, right? Like when I did my cash-based practice. Like,
shout out Omega Sports and Recovery.
Yeah, RIP. Like I went through, like, this is a good thing. Like you sometimes know when someone's not going to be good at something. Mm-hmm. And so before I met John, I met how many like videographers, photographers.
Sucky ones too.
And like sucky ones. I had one person who I brought on who, I'm not going to name names here. But I picked him up to go to Austin.
Ew, no, don't you dare tell that story.
I picked him up to go to Austin because I needed filming for like an event I was doing in Austin. It was like Omega Sports Recovery was a physical therapy cash base. Like we were in Austin, San Antonio.
It was doing really well.
It was great.
But you were going.
I was going to Austin every day and gym to gym. And so I brought him because I wanted to make cool content. This boy gets in my car and he's like pulls out while I'm driving. Pulls out his nail clippers, put his toes on my dashboard, and starts clipping his toenails while I'm driving. I swear to God, I was like, if this shit flings into my face,
ew, I can't
this man's gonna be losing a toe. Like, and I remember thinking, I was like, I don't have. And at that time, I've already went through 4 videographers,
right?
And I was like, and you know, you just know in your heart, like, this man ain't it.
Yeah, he is.
He's like, is that your man? You know, the TikTok is that's mine. like I was like, this guy ain't it. And so, I think you meet people and you know certain paths where it's like, okay, he's not it. Mm-hmm. But then I met John randomly at one day at a CrossFit gym that I just got into, and I see this tall Mexican man like filming. I thought he was doing CrossFit, but he's filming someone else do CrossFit. Filming, and we just have a conversation, and you know, it's been 4 years from then.
Well, yeah, he's been with us since
2017,
and that's who we keep looking at. By the way, John's our producer for this podcast, but he's gone from Omega with Rib, to me, you know. So he's gone with 2 of our businesses, and he's kind of been the glue and helped, and he's high quality, high value, and trust and believe we know the alternative with somebody freaking clipping their dusty toenails in your car.
The nail clipper guy, you knew in your heart that wasn't it.
Yeah.
And not that I recognize the feelings at the time, but with John, like the first couple sessions, you kind of intuitively know, okay, this is different. This could be it.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing with you too is like, I think we kind of, deep down, you intuitively know when someone has it or doesn't have it based on certain experiences.
Yeah, sure.
And I would have told you a long time ago if I was like, you intuitively didn't have it.
Yeah, right. Oh, tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get to. Like, I think that's the imposter syndrome part is you yourself, just anyone doesn't think that they have it. But I mean, people around you, if you have good people around you, should tell you if you have it or not. And you do have it, right? Like, just, I don't know.
And I think that's really important. And I started taking compliments better too, because I noticed like if I'm not taking a compliment or like minimizing the person who's giving the compliment, that means that I'm not trusting you enough to give this compliment, which is really insulting, and I don't. So I don't not trust you, but that is my tendency to be like, oh no, thanks, but I could have done this better. I could have shot this. I could have gotten this way more blah, 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 blah. And you're just trying to give a compliment. And what is that saying to you? You're like, okay, well, F you. Like, I'm just telling you like it is. Yeah. So I started saying like, it's a reflection of how I'm viewing the person who's giving me a compliment. If I'm minimizing that, I'm minimizing them. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anything minimal of you. So it's been a big practice to just stay in that. And it's hard because I think my nature a little bit.
Especially when you feel like you failed at something, like if a video doesn't do great or if you don't get a brand deal that you want, it's easier to say,
to put it all on me.
Yeah, like that was my fault. I don't have it within me. But I mean, think about it. It's more of a long-term thing. Like you've been doing this 2 years and see where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Versus those first videos in the beginning, if you were like, oh, this is not going to work.
Right. Well, and there was so much less pressure when I was first posting because I was like, nobody's going to see this. Like, I'm just going to post for my patients that I was seeing via telehealth. And I was like, hey, I posted this on TikTok. It's like a fun tip to kind of supplement the telehealth visits because everything was hands-on before COVID. So when I started posting on TikTok, it was nobody, this is not going to blow up. This is not my intention for it to blow up. So there was so much less pressure.
See, I feel the opposite. I feel like there's less pressure now.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
Because I think like in the beginning when you started the Baby Tea, the pressure is to actually make something of it. Versus now is like you've actually made something of it and there's like, what's the pressure now? You know how to make the videos. People want to meet you.
Yeah.
Like, what's the pressure now? You just keep going down the path that you've already set for yourself. In the beginning, there was no path. You literally had to lay the foundation, put up the woodwork. But now you have the house. Now it's just decorating the inside of it. And so, put on a t-shirt. But I'm saying, you know what I mean? Like,
clip that one.
Yeah. But there's less pressure now. I mean, what was the pressure on posting that? Yeah. The House of Noah thing. Usually in the past, if there was a brand deal, you would ask me to view a video 10 times.
Yeah.
You didn't even ask me to view it once.
I was
yeah, but you went ahead and posted it.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And see the result of it. There wasn't any pressure with that.
Right. You're right. No. Yeah. It's just like that evolving thing of like being gentle on yourself. Yeah. Which I think leads into kind of our next topic that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about, what time are we at?
52.
Okay, we'll go to 11:30. Okay, I wanted to talk about so let's catch up from the last episode we left off on the Mets are in your lungs, and we kind of talked about that. I want to talk about Julie, who is the leader in their support group, told you something that really, really stuck and resonated with you. About, I couldn't remember the wording, so maybe you can help me out, of not letting the cancer chase you. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so Julie is part of, so there's this, the cancer I have is called poorly differentiated thyroid carcinoma, freaking long name. Mm-hmm. And so you just shorten it to PDTC. And so this was kind of newly discovered in 2004. So it's not like it's like, 18 years old? It's like a teenager right now. Mm-hmm. And so not even old enough to drink alcohol yet. And so, so it's just newly discovered. And Julie, who is a member on the support group, started this whole group, along with others, but Julie's the one I know now, of like once a month meetings, a Facebook group. And man, like I'm so grateful for her. And I'm sure everyone in that group is. So the moment I got diagnosed, myself, my brother reached out to try to get me into this support group. Mm-hmm. And, Julie obviously gave us the link. And so I went to my first support group meeting 3 weeks ago, about to be 4 weeks, I think next week. And in that meeting, there's people with, this kind of cancer for 15 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. Everyone has such different takes on what they're going through, some worse than others, some where I'm like, okay, that's a good outlook. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I'm talking to them, and I'm bringing up close to the end of my life, and the question I ask them is, guys, I have this possible job opportunity. Before I knew I had cancer, I took this job. or I interviewed for this job where they narrowed it down. God, don't know how I got put in this situation, but thank the Lord.
No, you did the work to get in that situation 100%.
Yeah,
Don't
like
discredit that.
They narrowed it down from 150 people, and they chose me to run a home health company here in San Antonio, and that's what I'm looking at in April.
The CEO of that.
Yeah, April 1st, 2023. That's the expected start time as of now. And so I asked in the support group, I'm like, guys, do you think I can actually do this? Like, it requires a lot of time, a lot of effort. I know I'm going through treatments. And I'm asking them because they've went through the treatments that I'm about to go through. They kind of know what to expect, how they feel. And the people who did it, who were there from 15 years to 5 years to 3 years, were like, yes. And the overwhelming census was, you need to live your life. Like, this is your diagnosis, but you have to live.
Yeah.
Like, you have to push for these things. You have to do these things. Not that I didn't know that, but to hear it from people who are going through the struggle that you're about to go through, really, like, it's kind of a light bulb situation, because I don't know, it felt like it was okay.
Yeah.
Like your father telling you, go ahead,
right.
Go ahead and do that. And you're like, that feeling of like, you're like, oh, okay, like I can do it. And that's what it felt like. And I don't think
any other person, even me or your family, it had to come from those people who experienced the PDTC in order for it to really click for you.
Exactly. Like to really click.
Because I tell you all the time, you're going to do it, you're going to crush it, you're going to kill it, blah, blah. But like, I don't have that. So from their experience, I think that's why it was so meaningful.
Yeah. And I'm not a support group type person. Like, and so to be part of a support group for the first time was like, wow, this is actually pretty nice. Of people who are going through what you're going through. And I was like, and to be like, feel like vulnerable in that situation was nice. And so, yeah, like, I think whatever you're going through, like to hear that, hey, you can live, like you can go on. And we all know, like, this is not the greatest cancer in the world. I think that's what you tend to hang your hat on is like, fuck, I have cancer.
Yeah.
And this is not good. But to hear a group full of people be like, live your life, you can do this.
Right. Well, and what she told you, because the thing we ran into was since they told you to live your life, I felt like you were like, okay, I'm going to live my life. Yeah. And you went 0 to 100 with adopting new practices very quickly. And that's where we had not an argument by any means, but I was feeling this disconnect because you signed up for the gym, and then you signed up for a men's group at church. You went to church, you did this, you did the support group, all of this. And I was kind of on the slower side of still processing a lot of things. And you told me that Julie said, like, you can't feel like you're being chased by cancer.
This was actually something different.
Oh, I thought it was Julie.
No,
okay.
This was another.
My bad.
Yeah, no, Julie said, live your life. And then Kathy, who's part of this group called the Outlier Project, was telling, I guess we can talk about it a little bit now, was just mentioning to me, MD Anderson's calling me early.
Okay, go ahead.
I pick it up?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to take that call with MD Anderson, but we can talk a little bit more about that on the next podcast. But I know we were talking about Kathy, and so Kathy is part of this group called the Outlier Project, which I joined. I think that's something we can talk about the next episode too, is just the amount of people I've met. Yeah. And the supportive people. But Kathy's so awesome. She's like an executive coach and was just walking me through this. And she mentioned, she made a post about, do you ever feel like if you stop, not to me, just a general post on LinkedIn, do you ever feel like if you stop that it's so hard to start again? I saw her post a few days ago, but a few days before my call with her, but I didn't think much of it after I read it. But she mentioned to me, she's like, Ruby, do you ever feel like if you stop that it's hard to start again? And it got me thinking that, you know what? I was telling her, I didn't think about it like that. It's like, if I stop moving so fast, then the cancer catches me. And that's my first time after having the support group before and them telling me to live my life. The next couple of days was meeting with Kathy, and where I did feel like, if I don't keep living my life and the cancer catches me, then I die. And then, and so I don't know, from there, it kind of set my focus of like, you need to move and continue to live your life, but at the same time, embrace the feelings of having cancer, it's okay to slow down. It's okay because it is there.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so
that's where I felt like and I don't want to say disconnect because we're rarely disconnected with everything, but like where I was like, why is he moving so fast in terms of lining things up, scheduling, meeting people, reaching out with everything, which I never thought was a negative thing. I was like, this is great. This is his form of processing or even grieving or kind of, coming to terms with that this is like going to be like a lifelong thing. But there was something in me that's like, why does this feel like there's, that there is something a little bit negative with this? And I think when Kathy told you that and she expressed that, to not let it chase or not live your life feeling like if you stop, the cancer will catch up. And when you told me that, I was like, that's it. That's what I feel like you were doing.
I think it was. I think it was a little different though from your perspective, because to me, yes, that was an important conversation, but it was more so I felt like to get my life normally is going like working out, playing basketball, doing something like that. And a lot of those things are limited. So I signed up for these classes, did these support groups, but I felt like as much as I was doing, I felt like you weren't being able to, it was too fast for you to.
No, totally. Yeah. And it was. And then, or you could say it wasn't you, it was me being slow. Like you can, either way you turn it. And I was being slow. I'm always slower to process things. And I adopted the kind of idea of just be very slow until we're like in the clear of, obviously not cancer free, but like until we get a little bit more stable, like until after the radioactive iodine, until after the surgery, and then I'll be able to like start up something, and then I'll be able to have a social life, and then I'll be able to join what Rib is joining. And it dawned on me that I'm like, that's not going to be our life anymore, because we don't know, and it's always going to be kind of this faster pace.
It's always going to be a test that I have to get to see where it's spread. It's always going to be this.
And I was kind of waiting on where things were like, I don't know, I can't explain it, like where I just kind of like paralyzed myself. And you didn't. And so it was incredibly obvious. It was like very polar. Like I was here and you were here. And not like I was discouraging you in any way to do that, but typically we're always kind of on the same page and we're at the same frequency and pace. And to that point in time was where I felt we weren't. And it was so obvious to me, but I couldn't like put my finger on what it was. Yeah. And so we had a conversation about that. And, we both kind of said, okay, I need to catch up a little bit and just start living my life kind of with this new pace. And then you alternatively said, I can pace myself with all of these new things I'm adopting. So we kind of met in the middle. Sure. and some work in progress, of course. And this is, again, like all new to us.
Yeah, it's literally been like 4 weeks.
We don't know,
like
what we're doing.
Today's Tuesday, right? So this is 4 weeks from surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been 1 month.
It's a whirlwind. And so I think that was really helpful to kind of hear that from Kathy and Julie. And I think that's kind of like how you're living your life now, and something that I will catch up to. Yeah. But I at least know that in myself that, it's not our journey anymore. It's not going to be, there's not going to ever be this thing of getting labs, checking your neck for reoccurrence of nodules. Like this is now kind of going to be our new normal. And we have to stay on top of it, because if you start denying it or like, avoiding it, then you don't want to start doing that. Yeah. That's unhealthy literally to your life. So it's just something that we both kind of are adjusting to, that
I'm sure people who have gone through a similar experience have to adjust to. It's like a huge life adjustment.
Yeah. And people say on that support group, the cancer support group, that every test they go into to see if it's reoccurred,
yeah,
you're like, just waiting on the results, right? And so that's just the rest of our life, my life. And
that's why I think we need a better doctor, because this is going to be a little bit more lifelong, and like we can't be dealing with her awful delivery for the rest of our life. So hopefully at MD Anderson, they at least have that little part that we've been missing. So I thought that was interesting. I'm sure people will resonate with that.
Yeah. So far they seem a lot better.
Yeah. Okay. Let's wrap it up with, so we're kind of in the new year. What is the date? I mean,
a month into the new year.
We're a month into the new year. This is how our lives been. It's just been like, oh, we didn't even know it was the new year. We spent New Year's in a Airbnb with you post-surgery with your drains in and the whole nine. So we, but every year, I know it's like a big trend on social media to get your word of the year. And this is kind of like what you want to focus on, or what's like priority in the new year. And so I thought we could do that for the year of 2023 with this new information we have with everything going on. I think it still would be cool to have, a word, a positive thing that is only for you, that describes how you want your year to go.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
You go first.
So my word of 2023 is going to be recovery, or recover. And I think because in 2022, that was the antithesis. Our life was the antithesis or the opposite of recovery. I had Julian, our 10-month-old, in March of 2022, and I had a really traumatic birth, where it was, I have that on my YouTube, my birth story on the baby PT, if you want to check it out. So I had a really traumatic birth that scared all of us, and I didn't recover from that. Like it was just replaced with
the next
more
thing.
stuff.
There was no time to relax.
No. And you're a new mom, you're like, what time do I have to like work on me processing a lot of that trauma, and it was really scary. It was really traumatic, and you kind of just keep going. And then, my mom, who was, had so many plans to be there with me, with Julian, and she was with me and you in the delivery room. And that was a big stressor for the people in the delivery room. It was very scary. So my mom got a horrible case of shingles. Yeah. Probably.
That was right after that, right?
Probably like 2 weeks after I had Julian. So she was out, and my mom knows, like, I'm not blaming her or anything, but this is just the course of events of the year. And so I had to, in our head, that was the plan, is mom's going to help, and I can recover a little bit. Yeah. That didn't happen. So then I, started helping my mom with her awful, rowdy shingles. People who have shingles, God bless.
So painful,
so uncomfortable. That lasted a long time. We're starting to get momentum. I'm a new mom. My body has completely changed. My mental health has changed. My everything has changed. Our relationship changed, because I think at the time was you were starting to feel a little something pre-cancer, pre-Graves, where you weren't at your best either, in terms of like, remember you were like so tired all the time.
So after Julian, I was excessively tired.
It was just like so tired, which I'm like, I was like, it's a new dad thing or new parent thing for sure, but you're like really tired. And so I just didn't get the opportunity or like the time to recover. And that's not on anybody. That is definitely on me. And so then in the summer, we got your diagnosis with Graves, and then the end of the year just ended with this huge surgery, and then this really gnarly kind of like cancer diagnosis. So my word for 2023, I think, is just going to be to recover for myself. And if that means like doing the work, therapy, all of that, I'm a huge proponent for. Taking time for me to recover mentally and physically, getting back into shape. All of that is just taking a beat and see how I can take care of myself.
Yeah. That's a good word. I think that describes it well.
Yeah. I think it's going to be the hardest year for sure, because you get so used to, giving and helping and being kind of in this like survival mode, which I think we were all last year. At least I was from Julian to you. I have to get out of that mode. I can't stay in that mode forever. That's just not healthy. And so it just dawned on me. I'm like, I never got time to recover from anything. Yeah. And I need to prioritize that for this year. So that's my word.
That's a good word. I think that describes it well for you for next year.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. What's your word?
I'm thinking like moment is probably my word, just because I feel like that's just like a classic where someone's going through cancer. Like stay in the moment. So cliche. But I think for sure, like you're trying to make sure that every moment you're doing, either it be, this podcast today or when I'm with Julian or something, you're just not worried about other things going on.
That's a good one.
Either it be like you're in work or like you're worried about work stuff while I'm with Julian. So I just try to put my phone down when I'm with him as much as I can. Or if I'm doing, like I rarely do yoga. So I started doing yoga a couple weeks ago.
And that forces you to stay in the moment too,
you have all these thoughts through your head, which I heard are fine to have. You just got to let them run through. But just trying to stay in that moment that you're doing something and let that moment be as peaceful as possible. So that's kind of my word is I know for the rest of the year, we're going to have multiple tests, multiple things coming up. And the moment you get those results, that moment's going to suck. Mm-hmm. But try not to let that moment overcome
the other moments.
Yeah, the other moments of the day, not letting it take over my mentality or how happy I am for the rest of the day.
Yeah. That's so hard to do.
And I think it's been helping so far. Like if I get a test and it's like it's spread here, at this point it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like you just gotta live the next moment, because I mean that's the whole point, right? Like what we're talking about today is just trying to live your life and not being afraid to stop and reflect on the bad moments, but at the same time knowing you can go to the next moment, if that makes sense.
I think not sitting in that moment, which is what I tend to do. And sometimes I know you're better at it than me, and going to the next moment is easier said than done for sure. And you're again, like better at it, but it's a test when it's so many moments, many, you feel like you're getting freaking beat up all the time, like just knocked out quite frequently. We've had, especially these past couple of weeks. So what a mental exercise that's going to be.
And recovery too. It's part of it too. Like making sure you're.
Yeah. Just getting, I think this is what like this podcast helps with is like talking it out and releasing a lot of stuff. All of this we have talked about before this podcast.
Sure.
So it's kind of like reiterating a lot of things, and I think it's helpful.
It's like a reminder.
Yeah, it's been so far really helpful and fun to kind of digest that and take us out of our moments where I'm working, you're working, grandma's with Julian. This is like forcing us to meet, and stay in this moment, and heal and share and all of that stuff. So those are our 2023 words.
That's it.
Okay, let's wrap up. So thank you guys for joining us.
Gracias. De nada.
For episode 2 in the books. We'll be back next week for another episode. We're going to get into a lot more stuff. We have a lot more to share, but again, we're just catching everybody up with where we are in our lives. Yeah. So don't forget to rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Ratings mean quite a bit in the podcast space. So 5 stars are always appreciated.
5+, please.
Yes. And then on YouTube, give us a like and a follow. Support us on all of our channels, the C Word Chronicles podcast on Instagram and TikTok.
Shout out MD Anderson.
Wish us luck. We'll be back next.
That's how my dad says MD Anderson. He asked me this morning, he's like, how's the MD? In his Indian accent. How's the MD?
Yeah. They're going to be asking a bunch of questions. Yeah.
Anyways.
So we'll keep y'all updated on next podcast on how that went. Wish us luck. Give us good vibes. And we'll catch y'all next time. Bye, guys.
Goodbye.